Okay, so we're making our foray into Lamed Aleph Amud Beis after the Mishnah about Bayis Shumale Peros, a house that was full of fruit, and somehow the first case is where that fruit becomes accessible. Something happened to the wall by not necessarily human hands, it's just something happened to that wall, and now we need to know whether we're allowed to use that fruit on Shabbos. So Rameir says, what? You are allowed.
You can make a hole if you want to.
Yeah.
Okay. Eenmaal. Vaikai Saiter Ahel. So why is that not diminishing, destroying a structure? Amar Rav Nachmani Nachum Ba'ada Amar Shmuel Ba'evira Deli Baini. But this is, he's talking about bricks which have got air in them, not cemented. Right?
Yes.
Ani
Is it so?
is that so? Va'amar Rav Nachman Ani lebaini da'at itor mi banayna. But these are leftover bricks, right?
Correct.
And these bricks are leftovers from the building. Shari leteltala nuhu Shabbos. And they're permitted to be picked up on Shabbat time, on Shabbos. Well, the Chazi lemizga alayhu, but they're suitable to be sat on. Shiragi nihu.
Sarukinuhu.
And they're arranged.
Yes, arrange them.
They're arranged in a way. So they're suitable to be.
Correct.
They're arranged. Vadai. But certainly, Gatsanihu, they're set aside. They're made
Right.
muksa.
Yes.
Varavzira, the Yotov. The Rav Zira says this, and this is on Yotov of our Lo B'Shabbat, and not on Shabbos. You might want to turn the camera.
Sure.
I'm going to have to attach a string to my finger and then pull it.
Or to the camera to wake you up.
Alright.
So we started the Gemora.
Okay.
It says, but this, why? But this is destroying a structure. So this Rabbi Nachmani Ba'ada Amar Shmuel, he says, no, these bricks are bricks without teeth, without cement, without mud within them. And they are the leftover bricks from the building, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's permitted to pick them up on Shabbos. Shari leteltalahu shalit la tola nehu Shabbata. And it's permitted to pick them up during Shabbos. Since they are permitted to be, since they are suitable to be sat on, so that's why you can pick them up, right? This is a use for it. And they are arranged certainly. No, this doesn't make sense to me. Because they're suitable to be sat on, you can pick them up. And that they're arranged. And then they're set aside.
Designated. Designated.
Designated.
Vada
Where do you see designated?
Ikatsiniru.
Oh, is they designated?
Yeah.
So they set aside to be set on. Right? So you can do this on Yom Tov, but you can't do this on Shabbos. Amarav 0, Yom Tov Meru, V'alo b'Shabbat, but not on Shabbos. Tanai Nami Hachi, and this also is taught in the Beitsa. Rabbi Meir,
Meir.
Rabbi Meir, Ome'af, Petachat, Pochet, Ach, Pochet, L'tchila, L'chatchila, V'notel, B'Yom Tov. Rabbi Meir, even though you can make a hole from the beginning, you can make a hole, you can actually make an opening and you can take from this opening on Yom Tov. Under of all law of Shabbos, but not on Shabbos. Amar Shmuel. Yeah, so this is quite, so this is a different subject. We probably should stop here.
Do Rashi?
So what have we proven here? Long-winded way of saying what?
He said because these bricks are designated to be sat on, and the leftover bricks, they may be used. You can move them.
That's not the main point. Side point.
That's side point, okay.
What's the main point?
Is
It's
that you
really
They are muktzah. They're designated them, right? So therefore, since you designated them, they shouldn't be muktzah. You should be allowed to use it.
On Yom Tov.
Even l'chatchila should be allowed to use it.
again. Rabbi Meir is the enigma. Why is he in the enigma? And we said that partially is because
partially the fruit is not awesome. Once you get the fruit.
you're addressing why the fruit is not usher. That's not Rabbi Meir's point. That's the Tanakama's point. So let's concentrate on Rabbi Meir now. He's the main, like you said, right now he's the main subject of the Gemora. So what bothers the Gemora in Rabbi Meir?
Destroying Ohel.
But then we answered that up. It's not destroying an Ohel because...
They left over and they're not cemented.
No, they're not cemented.
Yeah.
No. You're making a mistake. Those are two separate cases, by the way.
Okay, so they're not cemented.
They're not cemented. And Rashi, even in the Mishnah, said that is the case of the Mishnah. He used that to explain the Tanakama.
Repending.
Now, okay. But the Gemara doesn't turn around and say it's an Isser of Soser Ohel D'Rabanan. Rashi doesn't, the Gemara doesn't say that. The Gemara says, why isn't there an Isser D'Rabanan of what?
The stones.
What would be the Isser D'Rabanan?
We're allowed to move them.
What's that called?
Muktzah.
Muktzah. No, not Isser. Not because of Isser. No. To use these stones, I could use these stones without doing an Isser. Muktzah Machmas Isser means that the only way I can use this is by doing an Isser. That was like the fruit. The only way I can get to it is by taking apart the wall. But I could pick up these bricks and use them without doing an Isser, Deraisa. But, what's the other problem? If they're still...
They're still arranged.
Because of what? Being arranged just shows his intention. If his intention is still to what?
Not to use them.
Read the Rashi. What happens when the bricks are arranged?
So you knew.
They're suitable to sit on.
No,
Sidron zu al zu.
that's not if they're arranged. I don't know what you mean by arranged.
Sidron is order on top of the other. Sidron
You can move these bricks to get to the fruit because it's also Nafshi on Yom Tov.
Okay, now you're going way beyond. You're going to the end of the Gemora.
Oh.
We're still right at the beginning. We're asking Kasha on Rabbi Meir. That's what I'm asking. What's the Kasha on Rabbi Meir?
Am I allowed to take apart the bricks to get to the
We already explained why taking apart the bricks is fine, because why would there be a problem? What
Because
problem?
you arrange a problem of size.
No, we said there's no problem of slicer because there's no cement. Muksa. And what kind of muksa is it?
Since you arrange them.
Forget about the arrangement. The arrangement just shows what his mind is. Rashi says Gila Daite.
It's a binyan. Also a binyan, right?
Oh, which means
And if you take some apart, it's going to be.
no, don't go with that. We already said there's no problem of stira, no stira, no cement, no stira.
The binyan is for us and it's not them.
Oh, the isser is
To transport, to move them.
tiltul. Tiltul. What is that word tiltul usually associated with?
Carry.
No. Tiltul just means to move. I'll just move the cup without carrying it. What is that usually referring to? An isser of tiltul. There's one more word that usually it fits in when you say there's an isser of tiltul.
Tilted the Rabbana?
But tiltul of what?
Of binyan.
Of no, muksa. That's the term, tiltul muksa. That is the full term of the isser of muksa, tiltul muksa. I'm allowed to look at muksa. I'm even allowed to touch muksa. Did you know that? You're allowed to touch muksa? People always make a mistake. Muksa, don't touch it. You're allowed to touch muksa. Problem is, if you touch it, usually you move it. But the real problem with muksa is moving. Therefore, the real words that Chazal like to use when they talk about isser of muksa is, you want some coffee or tea?
No.
Sound fun. Okay, is tiltul muksa. That's the real isser, tiltul muksa. The real isser that Chazal said is usser with muksa is what?
Is tilted.
Which means, how do we translate that? Hi. Moving it, that's right, moving it. We're not allowed to move muksa. Touch it, I can look at it, I can even sit on it really. Cold too. Have a good day. Thank you. You too, thank you. So, let's just get it straight. The Gemora said, how can Rabbi Meir let you take apart the wall to get to the fruit? Isn't there a problem of stira, soser ohel? To which we answered, no, there's no problem with that. You know why? We're talking about
Tilted. So.
No, look at bricks set or.
avira delivni.
Yeah, they're not cemented.
This wall of bricks has air between them and not cement.
Yes.
No isser stira there. What is bothering the Gemora subsequently, though? That's true, there's no isser of stira, but there still should be an isser of tiltul muksa. Why? Why would you say there's a problem muksa?
Got no use for them.
What?
You have no use for the
Frills
bricks.
is one is.
They're making a wall. There's a very nice usage for that.
No, but you're not building the wall, right? You're removing the bricks.
But these bricks do serve a function, so how can you call them muksa if they serve a function? So the Gemora goes and proves that any brick that what? What do we see from Rav Nachman?
Any brick.
Amar Rav Nachman.
Well, it's just the remaining. It means the remaining from the building, not the scattered from the building. And how to pick them up.
Because they are chazi
Chazil and Mizaga.
alike.
Alive.
Because you could, if you wanted to, use them as a
Lie down with it.
chair.
Like a bed, a mattress, right? Very hard one, but they actually say that's healthy. Okay, now the Gemora says, but if they're not just scattered all around, but
So
he rather
arrange them
he arranged them, that shows his intention is what?
to build.
To use them for the next building. Well, true, this building's finished. They're left over from this building, but he still must intend to use them for the next building. Then,
Why they consider them? They're certainly designated for the building.
and more than just designated, it's more than just designated, it's pushed away. Like we said, that's the word muksa. Pushed off to the side. Pushed away for the purpose of building, but they are pushed away. So we call that what? Remember what kind of muksa that's called?
Machmas Isser.
No.
No.
What's the isser? Tell me what isser is. I just want to pick up the brick and use it as a paperweight. What's isser?
Tiltul.
Tiltul of muksa, but there's different kinds of muksa.
Tiltul.
Which muksa is this? Muksa machmas.
Tiltul.
That is what's usser. Tiltul is what's usser. But why? Before we said, for example, there's one kind of muksa called muksa machmas isser. That something's usser because to use it would be an isser, so I don't want to do it. I take my hands off it. I don't want to use it because I don't want to do the isser. That's why it's muksa, because I don't want to use it because to use it would be involved in an isser. That's called muksa machmas isser. But here, to use these bricks is not called. There's no isser. What isser would I be doing if I picked up this brick? So what is it? Muksa machmas. We've had a case like this much earlier.
Sorry.
That's right. Very good. Are you just guessing, or are you actually? It makes sense to you what you're saying.
Makes sense because it is an expensive.
That's right. They are expensive,
Not the case of
and
the
they're
wood.
also important that they remain in. One of the problems of muksa machmas chisar and kiss, you don't want to use it for mundane tasks because they might get chipped and ruined. Like another example of muksa
Wood.
machmas wood
Expensive
case,
wood.
there was expensive wood. There's also, like for example, a Mohil's knife. It's called muksa machmas chisar and kiss. You know why? Probably he has to spend a good amount of money to buy it, but more than that, he doesn't want to just use it for mundane tasks because it could ruin it, right? It'll make it dull, or it might chip it, or who knows what, get lost or damaged. That's the last thing he needs. So because it's so important to him, hands off. That's the idea of muksa. But any muksa I look at and I say, why did he take his hands off that thing? Why would you just, I don't want to use it, I'm not going to touch it. Why? Why would you do that? Why would you not want to use something that's usable? So you say, if it's because it's isser, he doesn't want to do an isser. If it's because of chisar and kis, he doesn't want to destroy something that's important to him. So these bricks, are they important to him?
Yes.
Yes, he wants to use them for the next building. And if they get ruined, will he be upset? Yes, so therefore that's another reason to take your hands off of them and to not use them. Because you don't want to ruin them, you don't want to get them messed up. So that's the idea of muksa machmas chisar and kis. Okay, so the Gemora says, because of that, just like Reb Nachman explained that the bricks that were standing to be used for a building are muksa, kal v'chomer, if they're already being used as a part of the wall, they're certainly being saved for the building. They're part of a building at this moment. So again, why would he want to keep his hands off of them? Muksa machmas chisar and kis, the same idea. I don't want to damage these bricks. I need them for the building. These are more than just I'm going to build next week with them. They're part of a wall right now. So that means the Gemora has a kasha on whom?
On Rebbe Meir.
On Rebbe Meir. Where do we find Rebbe Meir?
In the Mishnah.
In the Mishnah. When he said that you're allowed to
Use
take apart the wall,
even
and even if it's not a problem of destroying that wall because there's no cement, but still there should have been a problem of muksa, not of the fruit, but of the bricks themselves.
Machmas chisar and kis.
Machmas chisar and kis. So that's the Gemara's kasha. How can Rebbe Meir let you pick up these bricks, which are clearly should have been a case of muksa, machmas chisar and kis, and yet he lets you pick them up and take apart the wall to get to the fruit? So what's the Gemara's answer? Let's see the Gemara inside. Amar Rebbe Zera.
Where is there a siddur? Is there a
You
beyond?
have it, Shabbatai?
Yes, I've got it, thanks.
Where is there a siddur? Is there a beyond of Amro? Beyond of a siddur, not any on the siddur.
Is that Amru
Amru, yes.
or Amro?
Amru.
So who are the plural? Who are they?
Chachamim.
We're talking about Rebbe Meir here. Why have we suddenly switched to the plural? If we're talking about one man, who our whole kash was, how can that one man? Right? Maybe if we're talking about the Tanakhama, you could say the Tanakhama is like the Chachamim, the Rabbanim. We often, right, say that they are like the Chachamim, so therefore we could use the plural. But why would you use the plural when we're talking about Rebbe Meir over here? Our whole kash is, how could Rebbe Meir let you take apart this wall? The bricks are muktzah. So he's saying, who's he talking about? Rebbe Zer is talking about, he's trying to explain whom? Rebbe Zer is trying to explain,
Nachman.
no, we had a kasha on, we used Reb Nachman to prove we have a kasha, but we had a kasha on,
Yeah.
On Rabbi Nechumi Ba'ada, right?
no, you said it a moment ago, on Rebbe Meir.
Yeah.
How could Rebbe Meir let you take these bricks apart? Every brick is muksa, as we see from Reb Nachman, so how could Rebbe Meir let you move muksa, just to get to the fruit?
Yeah.
So Reb Zera says, what? B'yom tov what?
Amroi.
Amro, which would mean what?
He said.
He said it. He said it. So who's the he and what's the it?
He is Rabbi Meir.
Right, so we say, Rebbe Meir said it, said what?
Let him move the bricks.
That you're allowed to move those bricks, and yes, it is muksa, but he only said you're allowed to do that on Yom Tov. But what?
Of a load for Shabbos.
And not on Shabbos. He would never let you move those bricks on Shabbos. Why? Are they more muksa on Shabbos than on Yom Tov? It's the same, whatever what made it muksa, machmas, kisar, and kis. I don't want to lose these bricks, I need them for the building. Well, that is as much an issue on Shabbos as on Yom Tov. That fact that you don't want to lose these bricks doesn't change on Shabbos or Yom Tov. Right? You want these bricks. You want them on Shabbos, you want them on Yom Tov.
Yeah, but then it's taking into account that it's fruit. You eat it on Yom Tov.
So that's going to be the point. He's really not saying that there's a difference in the muksa on Shabbos and Yom Tov. What he's saying is that the heter to move muksa might be different on Shabbos and on Yom Tov. Till now we didn't think that. We thought if something's muksa, it's usher. Right? But now we're saying no, it's muksa. And we proved that it's muksa from Reb Nachman. But Reb Nachman clearly said his halacha when? If you look back at Reb Nachman, he specifically pointed out that he was talking on
leftover bricks.
when? Look at Reb Nachman, Ha'amar Reb Nachman, second line of the Gemora.
And he made the Siyah, the remaining from the building.
Keep going.
Sorry, Letel Telim, Shabbosa.
Oh! When?
On Shabbos.
On Shabbos. Reb Nachman went out of his way to say it's not. He could have just said it's usher moving. When is he talking? No, he's talking Yom Tov, Shabbos. No. He went ahead and said b'Shabbos. So that's what Reb Zeir was saying. Did you notice that Reb Nachman only said that it's usher on Shabbos? And Reb Meir is talking, obviously, on Yom Tov. How do we know? In the Mishnah, does it say Yom Tov? No, but this whole Masechta is Yom Tov. So almost every Mishnah in this Masechta is talking about Yom Tov. So obviously Rebbe Meir is talking about Yom Tov. So that's the answer. Reb Nachman pointed out that these are muksa and you can't move them on Shabbos. So on Shabbos, even Rebbe Meir would agree you can't move them. Because they're muksa. They are muksa. But he was just saying in the Mishnah that on Yom Tov, however, despite the fact that they're muksa, he claims that they are allowed to move it because of some kind of heter of vocal nefesh, right? That's Reb Zera's Iker Nakuda. And he brings a proof, right? It's always good to have a proof to what you're saying. What's Reb Zera's proof? Shabbatai.
Sorry, what's the question?
Rabbi Zera brings a proof to what he's saying.
Well, no Shabbos, because that's what he says.
Not just
so we learned what's in Beitsa.
Oh.
Anu Nami Yahi, Rabbi Meir, Ach Po Chat Lehitchila Venotel Biyotov.
Keep going.
Amero
Amro.
Va'alno B'Shabbos.
Oh. There it is, black and white, in the Beitsa. Exactly what Rabbi Zera was predicting. Even Rabbi Meir is only allowing you to move these bricks, to take apart this wall, moving these looks of bricks. Why? On Yom Tov, but not on Shabbos. What's the difference in Yom Tov and Shabbos? Because on Yom Tov, there's an extra thing called Ochel Nefesh, which even allows you to do malacha. I can even cook food, mamish, and do borer, and do all sorts of other malachas. So he's learning that just like you can do that, sometimes at least the Rabbanim will step aside and take away their Isser to allow you to do the Chiyuv, the Raisa of Simchas Yom Tov. Okay, let's read Amar Rabbi Zera B'Yom Tov, Rashi.
Want to read the Rashi?
Please.
Rabbi Zera B'Yom Tov, from the Zera of Yom Tov, Hitti Rabbi Meir allowed you to move the bricks.
Right.
Kevan with the Rabbanan who do also. Since that because the Rabbanan
It's only midrabanan that these bricks are aser.
Shum Simchas Yom Tov Shari. And because of Simchas Yom Tov,
The Rabbanan
allowed you to do so.
would lift their Isser, right? They allowed you to do it specifically like a special dispensation, as it were.
Shahar Mutter Bo Oichel Nefesh, because the matter of removing all those bricks for the sake of being fruit.
Right, so you could even do malacha d'oraisa. Now the truth is you can't do soiser, but you could do other malachas for cooking, and therefore they would lift their Isser of muksa. Lola Shabbos. They wouldn't allow you to move these bricks on Shabbos, just like Rav Nachman said, it's also to move on Shabbos. Why? Because of the Isser of moving what?
Bricks of a building.
No, the real wording is tiltul. The word that's missing in Rashi is what's Isser? Isser tiltul muksa. Muksa. Right? That's how Chazal call the full-fledged Isser of muksa. Isser is called tiltul muksa. So he says on Shabbos it's still Isser because of tiltul muksa. And that will conform what? Says Rashi.
Chosmos.
Ki.
Rav Nachman.
That's exactly as Rav Nachman said. So the whole problem was that the way we're explaining, we have a problem with how could Rav Nachman say that they're Asur if Rabbi Meir said it's Mutter, and we assumed that they had to agree. So we're saying they did it. They agreed. Rav Nachman was saying it's Asur on Shabbos. Even Rabbi Meir would agree to that. Rabbi Meir is saying it's Mutter on Yom Tov, and even what? Rav Nachman would agree to that. That's what we're trying to say.
Even though it's muksa.
It's an Isser Muksa. Rav Meir would agree with Rav Nachman that it's also to move on Shabbos. It's Muksa.
But Yom Tov would allow you to move the bricks because of Oichel Nefesh.
Right. It's really more than just because of Oichel Nefesh. Because the Rabbanan permitted and lifted their Isser of Muksa
For the sake of Oichel Nefesh.
for the sake of Simchas Yom Tov, Rashi says.
Simchas Yom Tov.
If you look back to the Rashi, there's two steps. Rashi says, because of Simchas Yom Tov, they took away their Isser Midrabanan. Why would they do that, though? How did they know that it's a good idea? Because Shaharei, because behold, even a Malachas Mutter for Ochel Nefesh, so they did like a Kal V'chomer. If Hashem lets you do a Malacha D'oraisa for Ochel Nefesh, the Rabbanan said we can lift our Isser of Muksa and allow you to do Simchas Yom Tov, which is a form of another way of saying Ochel Nefesh, right?
So from the Raisa allowed you to lift it up.
If the Raisa, Hashem was sort of mavater on his Isurim of Malachas, Kal v'chomer, the Rabbanim could lift off their Isser Muksa, in certain cases at least, to allow you to do Simchas Yom Tov.
Yes.
Okay, are we good?
Yep.
Yeah.
Now that we brought up this idea, though, of, right, certain amount of heter, of muksa, etc., we're going to bring up another thing now and ask, well, how far are we going to go to allow you to break through barriers to get to food? What if I have my food buried in the ground, in a little hole in the ground? Am I allowed to break open that barrier, that door?
That's what we're going to discuss.
Next thing, right? So it leads us into the next discussion. Okay, should we start the next little discussion then of Shmuel?
It's time. Yes.
Okay, good. Amar Shmuel, Shabbatai, would you like to try it?
Yeah, Amar Shmuel, Chot Ma'ot, Sheba Kirka,
Karka.
So he said something tied down.
Well, chotemet. You know what a chotemet is?
Yeah, stamp.
A seal, really.
Seal.
A seal. They used to use a stamp on the seal to seal the letters, but it's really a seal.
So
For example, it's like the last thing that seals the object, right? The letter or whatever. So, or document. So that's why, actually, when you do the end of a bracha, Baruch Atah Hashem Mechayei Mesim, Baruch Atah Hashem Rofei Cholei Moisrael, or something, right? Those endings of those brachas, you know what that's called in Chazal's language? The Chasima. It's like the final signature, really. It's also another word for signature, Chatima. Okay, so Chosmo Shebekarka are like that which seals up things that are in the karka. What seals up things in the karka? So Rashi gives two examples where you have like, how could I have something in the karka? How could I have like, let's say, wine in a wine cellar, right? You know, the ancient wine cellars used to be underground because it was very cool under the ground. So it's good for storing things when there wasn't refrigeration, right? So how would they get down there? So if there was obviously some that were in the cellar of the house. You just walk down another stairs in the house. But there's also the kind that were just in the ground.
Petra.
They would dig down, like make what we call today a machsan. And then there would be a door to keep people out, to keep animals out, to keep people out. And then you lock the door. So what we're talking about is the lock on that door that leads down to the cellar, that leads down to the machsan where we're storing food or something. That's one type. Or a cave. Cave could also be used for storing things. It's also much cooler inside of a cave, etc., right?
Yeah.
But again, if you want to make sure to protect it, etc., you put a doorway on it, and that door should have a lock on it. And Rosh is talking specifically about locks that were used with rope. Ropes were used to tie them shut. That's the kind we're talking about. Chosmos, the seal, what seals up things that are in the karka. What seals things? You have a door, and then you have rope to tie up that door and make sure it stays shut. That's a chosmos of a karka.
Thick ropes?
Like thick ropes, right? To make a proper knot, but also to be able to undo them at the right time, etc. You come on Yom Tov now, and you want to get inside that storage area. You say there's extra people coming, want extra wine, you need to go down to the wine cellar. But to open up that wine cellar, you have to undo that knot. Are you allowed, or are you not allowed?
Yeah.
We shall find out soon enough.
So what does he say? Amar Shmuel, Chosma Shabbakarka.
Okay. Matir.
Matir.
You're allowed.
Now that could mean allowed. It also could mean, which I think in this case it makes more sense actually, matir in the other sense of the word matir, which is like
Tie down.
untying.
Oh, untie. Asuri.
Here we have a knot. The ropes were tied up in a knot to keep it closed. And he's saying, okay, there's, let's say, a double knot, right? It's a question that comes up on Shabbos also with shoelaces and things like that.
Right.
All right, and you have a double knot. Are you allowed to untie the double knot?
If it's temporary.
But if it's a double knot, it's not temporary. by
Yeah, it's
definition.
double, it's permanent, right?
Okay, so let's assume we're talking about a double knot here. He's saying you're allowed to what? Matir, to take apart the knot. I think Rosh can explain it like you, because even if it looks like a double knot, but we know it's a knot, it actually is a temporary knot. Because they are going in and out of there so often, it's not called permanent. But yeah, I think you were on the right track actually. Okay, but here, the reason why I'm preferring to say matir here doesn't just mean permitting. We're trying to get into the actual things that can remove that lock, which the main thing is to untie them. But there's other things we're going to talk about afterwards of getting through those ropes. So each of these verbs is another way of dealing with the ropes. Matir means, how do you deal with the ropes? Untie. And that's he's allowing you to do. Go ahead and untie it. Aval, but Shmuel wants to say, lo, mafkia.
Not to unravel.
Right, exactly. Literally to take apart.
Take apart.
Right? Which is like, I guess, undoing the strands or whatever. As you said, unravel.
Don't cut.
And not allowed to cut through the night, through it either. Right? Which is another way of dealing with the ropes. Okay? So that was Shmuel's opinion when you're faced with what? A doorway that's being shut with some ropes that are tied together, and you need to get food on the other side. So it's very much like our Mishnah, where it had fruit on the other side of the wall. Can I take apart the wall? Tanakama said no. Rabbi Meir said yes. Here we're saying a similar question in a way, but to get to that fruit, all I have to do is undo the knot. Rabbi Shmuel says yes, you're allowed to untie the knot, but you're not allowed to take apart the knot or cut the knot. But that's if that compartment that you're trying to open up is in the karka. Okay?
Yeah.
Because that makes the door that's attached to the karka, and even the rope that's attached to the door that's attached to the karka, is what? Part of the binyan. It's called a binyan. Anything attached to the land is called binyan, a building.
So one of these attics, they go down into the ground, you open up the doors open.
Cellar, we call it cellar, right?
Cellar, yeah.
Wine cellar. Exactly. Okay, so today we use, like a metal bolt, but in those days they used to often use ropes. Now, that's if the doorway to get into that food thing is in the ground. Then we have all sorts of problems, because in the end of the day, it's the same thing as taking apart a wall. You're taking apart a building if you take apart the rope. Right? You're taking something that was attached to the ground, as it were, which is part of a structure. A door is also structure, and now you're removing it. Removing something that's a structure that's attached to the ground is called soiser oil, like we've been saying up to now. That's a problem. So he says you can't do that. You can untie, but you can't take apart basically the structure that's attached to the ground. But if rather than being part of the structure that's attached to the ground, it's ropes that are keeping something shut that's part of a
pot.
No, not just a pot. Any
kli.
Any kli, but it can also be, sometimes you think of a kli as a very small thing. It can also be a large, like what we call in Hebrew, an aron begadim, or an aron ochel. Anything that's like a huge aron. Right? That's what we have in Israel, right? They don't have any walk-in closets here for the most part. Everything is stored in aronot, which are basically glorified kalim. Right? You don't really think of it that way, but that's what it is. What makes an aron a kli and not the other? Because is it attached to the ground in the end of the day? No, not usually, right? Sometimes they do attach it somehow to the wall. Then it would be actually a different story. But a lot of these aronot, like the one over here, right, is just sitting on the ground. So that doesn't make it part of the karka. So that makes it actually better as far as Hilchos Shabbos or Yom Tov is concerned. To take apart the ropes that are keeping that door shut would not be considered sois or ohel. Right?
Yeah.
Well. See, all we have to do is talk about the Aron. It's coming to open the Aron now. Isn't that amazing? If we would have talked about Mashiach, the Mashiach would have come. Okay, so Sheba Kalim, but we knew that already, that you could even do if it's part of Karka. And this is more Makel because it's not attached to the Karka, it's just a Stam Kli. So you could not only be Mater, you could even be B'chotei.
You can cut one rebel.
Yep, you can do that because I am taking apart a structure. No, it's a part of a Kli. Right? And the problem with taking apart a Kli is not the same as taking apart something that's attached to the ground, which is basically destroying a building. Halachically, right?
Yep.
And he says, this is all Shmuel, still what? Echad Shabbos, Echad Yom Tov. That means what?
The one applies to Yom Tov and the one applies to Shabbos.
The one, is he distinguishing between one thing he said and the other?
I think so.
No. No, that's not the expression. You're missing the expression. Echad this and echad that means both this and that.
Oh, I see.
So everything I just said now, that there's a distinction between whether it's attached to the ground or not. That if it's attached to the ground, I let you untie it but not cut it off or unravel it. But if it's attached to a Kli, and these ropes are keeping a Kli shut, the doors of a Kli shut, then I'll allow you to untie it, which I anyways let you do even if it's attached to the ground, but even let you cut it off and unravel it. And when does that apply? Echad Shabbos, Echad Yom Tov. Both, everything I just said now applies both on Shabbos and on Yom Tov, right? In other words, it goes both ways. Whatever I just said, which is Mekel, I'm even willing to be Mekel with that on Shabbos. So whatever I just said that's Machmir, I'm telling you, even you have to be Machmir with it on Yom Tov.
It's not a Nefesh on Shabbos, right?
True.
This wine, it's locked up in a pot.
But all I'm doing is untying a knot. What's what I do that's wrong?
But it's not just untying a knot, it's unraveling and it's cutting.
But those are not part of a binyan, so what did I do that's wrong?
Those ropes to the door, is it part of binyan?
What, a door like this?
Yeah.
No, it's not attached to the ground. Binyan is only if it's attached to the ground.
So you're talking about a kalim that's not attached to the ground.
That's what he meant to distinguish. Yeah. But karka will have one halacha, but kalim has a different halacha. What's a big difference? The difference is huge. Because if it's a door and it's rope that's keeping a door shut, that door is attached to the ground, that's mamish l'malacha, binyan or stira, whatever. But if it's just on a kli, we have an expression, ein binyan v'stira b'kelim. There's no such thing as taking apart a binyan that's just a kli in the end.
So you can cut this as well on Shabbos?
That's what he says. It could be an Beitsa, for example. I don't know if it's really something we would want to do, but sometimes in the old days at least, we used to use a gartel on, let's say, for Torah that wasn't the Velcro or the hook type. It was mamish, you had to tie a knot. If you remember those things. Sometimes they're extremely short too. So frustrating, like trying to make a bow. It's almost impossible. The last moment, just as you're thinking you're going to tie a bow, turns into a double knot. Right? So if you're making it, it's not a problem. Why? Because you didn't intend to make a knot. What if you open up a Sefer Torah on Shabbos morning and someone on Thursday was also a shlamazel, and when he was trying to make the bow on Thursday, he got frustrated and just came out in a double knot. And he didn't bother unraveling it on Thursday. So what's the next time you open up a Sefer Torah after Thursday?
You check if it's going
to...
Shabbos morning. Right? Next Kriyas Torah, Shabbos morning. They take the Sefer and they take the cover off the Sefer and they see it's tied with a double knot. What are they supposed to do now? So there could be a shita that you're allowed to untie it. You know why? Because the guy who tied it never really intended to make a double knot. So it's basically b'shogeg. It's like when you're tying your shoes. You ever tie your shoes and somehow it turned into a double knot?
Yeah.
Or the other way around, you're trying to untie your shoes and turn it into a double knot. What are you supposed to do?
And who's the
Shabbos.
Who's the shogeg here? The guy that tied it?
Yeah, the guy who tied. First of all, the guy who tied it. It's not even really shogeg. It's a madrega lower than shogeg.
Yeah, it's not to have shoes that tie.
No, it's even lower because it's not like he never intended to make a knot. So like it looks like a knot to the naked eye, but in halacha it's not. It was never intended to be a double knot. It was never intended to be a full-fledged knot. So therefore, it wasn't really made b'kavanah. So therefore, taking it apart is much easier. But let's say you want to paskin the other way. You say, look, he could have untied it at the point when it turned into a double knot, and he left it. Why did he leave it? Because he's like, okay, in a way he's happy that it turned into a double knot because at least it's going to keep it shut and he won't have to worry about it. Right? So instead of trying to fix it, he left it so that you could say he intended for there to be a double knot in the end. You could say. So let's say I open up the Sefer Torah and I don't want to just undo a double knot. Right? And the whole of the congregation, of course, is looking to see what I'm going to do. And I'm considered Rosh HaYeshiva, so I have all the eyes and I have to make sure to do the right thing. So what should I do?
Yep.
I don't want to untie it. I don't want people to think I'm a shagitz untying a double knot on Shabbos.
You can do it.
So according to this, I'd be allowed to cut it.
Or
Cut the scissors and cut it. Right? Because that's what he says. Echad Shabbos ve'echad Yom Tov. I can cut it open. If I can cut open to get at food, Kal v'chomer, I can cut it open to get at the Sefer Torah. Now he even says you can untie it, which is a big shiloh. Well, if he says you can untie it, maybe you can even untie a knot like this on, because he was saying maybe it wasn't intended for being permanent. Whatever, okay. So just an idea, you have to look up the halacha to see what the real halacha is if this applies to Sefer Torah, but I think it might. Luckily today, most Sefer Torah don't even have those anymore.
clips.
They have the clips or the Velcro or some other thing to get around all these problems. Alright, so we have Shmuel, okay?
If you go into your shop.
Yeah, we're going to leave it a second. I just wanted to point out to you what's going to happen now in the Gemora. Shmuel made a very sweeping statement, okay? And as we know from past experience, when an Gemora makes a statement, often what happens is what? We bring a Beitsa or a Mishnah that's not like him. And then we have trouble, because he should have to conform to the Beitsa. Does that mean he's wrong? Or that he's been disproven somehow? And he'll have to change his opinion. Or maybe we'll have a way out to say that he's talking about one situation, and the Beitsa is talking about a different situation. So, based on what he just said, the Gemara is now going to try to bring in other opinions from Beitsas that would seem to contradict Shmuel. Something that he said, either L'kula or L'chava. We'll have to figure that out. Okay, Shkoyach, turn off the camera, please.